The following three statements have no real connection except for the three deceased. The first statement is Peter Cuthbert, who was present with Pat, Tony and Craig at TJ Fridays on the afternoon of the 6th of December and also took out the finance on the Range Rover that Craig was seen driving on the weeks leading up to the murders and the three were found in on the 7th of December. The second is the ex-girlfriend of Pat Tate, Sarah Saunders. And the third is one of the old neighbours of Craig Rolfe and Donna Jaggers who witnessed some strange visitors attending their address on the days following the murders. The following is the statement of Peter George Cuthbert from the 12th of the 12th, 95. I'm a self-employed suspended ceiling contractor and I'm the owner of a company called M&A Suspended Ceiling, which I run from my home address. When I lived in Basildon, I got to know a man named Pat Tate, who also lived in the Basildon area. This would have been approximately 12 years ago. I did not consider Pat a friend at this stage. He was just someone I knew from Basildon, who I could say hello to. I saw Pat very irregularly and never socialised with him. All of my adult life, I have been involved in bodybuilding training and have trained in a number of gyms in and around the Basildon and Hadley area. About 2 years, whilst I was training at the Academy Gym, London Road, Westcliff, I met two men who also trained in there, Tony Tucker and Craig Rolfe. I had never met either of these men previously, but I was aware of Tony Tucker because I'd heard of him in conjunction with him running the bouncers at nightclubs in the South End and Basildon areas. The reasons we started to get to know each other was because Tony was intending to buy a gym and he was asking if I was interested in doing works on the ceiling. This work never took place, but after this I started to see both Tony and Craig on a social basis, which included going to clubs with them in the Basildon or Southend area. This was not an occurrence that happened every week, but on the odd occasion. I think it might have been around March 94, Pat Tate came out of prison and he started seeing Tony and Craig, and it appeared to me that Pat and Tony were quite close. Even when Pat came out, I was still training with them and also seeing them socially. During the summer this year, I did some work for Tony at his new house in Fobbing, where I put a suspended ceiling into the gym for him. I know that during 95, Pat Tate was back in prison for firearms offences. I couldn't remember exactly when it was, but I think it might have been in either August or October. Pat was released from prison. On the night he was released, a big party was arranged for him at the Dagenham Snooker Club, which I attended. Also at this party was both Tony and Craig. I can't remember anything out of the ordinary happening at this party, and I believe I left about 2 to 3 a.m. This would have been the last time I saw any of the three of them socially. On the 15th of the 11th, 95, I went with Tony Tucker to the Eastern Garage Car Sales London Road, which is actually situated at the Five Bells roundabout. I was going to buy on HP a Range Rover motor vehicle Vogue Index F424 NPE. Although this was my vehicle and I signed for responsibility of paying the HP, it was going to be lent by me to Tony and Craig for their use. In there, a general guarantee for financial HP form was completed by a member of staff. This form included my details and the details of the vehicle, and showing a total purchase price of £10,995, of £7,800 was going to be on finance over 36 months paid at £326.74 per month. A deposit of £3,195 was paid, but not when I was in the garage. As soon as I had completed the necessary forms, I left the garage and I did not take the Range Rover with me, and I have never been in it or driven it. After this time, I did not see anything of either Tony, Craig or Pat, but I have spoken to Tony and Craig on the phone. Early part of the week commencing Monday the 4th of the 12th, 95, I received the paying in book from the finance company. I contacted Tony and I arranged to meet him on the Wednesday the 6th of December 1995. The arrangement was made that I should meet Tony and Craig and Pat at the petrol station next to the Eastern Garage Five Bells roundabout about midday so I could give them the paying in book. I arrived first at the garage. and I had to wait a couple of minutes prior to them arriving in the Range Rover, and I believe Craig was driving. On this day, I was wearing a maroon ski jacket and mustard coloured shirt. I was wearing contact lenses, as I normally do, rather than glasses. Craig was wearing a black Scotty jacket, which was quilted and had a fur collar. Pat was wearing a dark coloured leather jacket. We stayed at TGI Fridays for approximately 1 hour, after which we all left in my Shogun. Whilst in the restaurant, Tony either made or received a phone call on his mobile phone about his business and one of his doormen. On the way back to dropping them back to their car, Tony asked me to call at Diamond Close, Chafford 100, an address where he used to live and now lets out. He said he wanted to collect some rent. When I went there, Tony got no reply. When we arrived back at the Five Bells roundabout, all four of us went into the Eastern Garage and I sat down at the back of the shop, and Tony and Craig and Pat went to the counter and had a conversation with the man behind it. I don't know what it was about or whether they paid an instalment on the HP. Our business at the Eastern Garage was finished somewhat between 3 and 4 o'clock, after which we said our goodbyes. I did not see or hear from any of these three after this time. The following is a statement of Sarah Saunders from the 8th of the 12th, 95. For the last 10 years, I had been involved in a relationship with Patrick Tate. During the course of this relationship, we had a son. In July 94, a short time after Pat had been released for a term of imprisonment, we purchased a 2-bedroom bungalow situated at Gordon Road, Basildon. I say we, the property was purchased in my name and the mortgage and deeds also in my name. We did live there together though. Once we moved into the bungalow, I began to see less and less of Pat. I was aware that he spent a lot of time partying with friends. Two of his closest friends were Tony Tucker and Craig Rolfe. He spent a great deal of time with them. Our relationship at the time was dying rapidly and I really wanted it to end. I didn't because I was scared of the reaction I would get from Pat if I did. At the end of November 94, Pat was shot at our home. Resulting from the shooting, he was admitted to Basildon Hospital. Whilst he was in hospital, Pat was dealt with by the police for matters which occurred at the hospital. Resulting from this, his licence was withdrawn by the police authorities and he was recalled to prison. Once he was readmitted to prison, although we initially spoke on the phone, I only saw him 3 times. I visited once while he was in Chelmsford for about 10 minutes. The 2 other occasions I saw him were on Father's Day. He had been taken from Whitemoor Prison to hospital for an operation. Apart from the occasional phone call from Pat, I had no contact with him until he was released from prison on the 30th of October 95. On the day of his release, he came home in the afternoon. He had been collected by Tony Tucker in a limousine. Whilst at home, he only stayed for about an hour, during which time he showered and changed prior to going to a party to celebrate his release. The party was held in a private room at a snooker hall near the Chequers Public House in Dagenham. Pat did not return home that night. When he came home, he was complaining of feeling ill and went to bed. He stayed there for 3 or 4 days. I slept in the baby's room. Our relationship was finished. Shortly after this, I moved from the bungalow. Pat was difficult, but allowing me access to get my things, and our contact was minimal. I know he was seeing other girls. I know 3 names: Gaynor, Lizzie and Claire. On the afternoon of the Wednesday the 6th of December 95, Pat came to my mum's house with Tony and Craig. They arrived in a blue Range Rover, a vehicle I'd seen Craig driving before. Pat came in initially without Tony and Craig. They came in a few minutes later. He came to collect a car he lent me. It had broken down. At this time he was wearing a dark coloured leather jacket, a fleet top and jeans. I really can't remember what the other 2 were wearing. Pat drove the VW Golf he had lent me and Craig drove the Range Rover with Tony as the front seat passenger when they left. This was about 3 p.m. About 6:45 I phoned Pat on his mobile phone. I phoned because I saw him in the afternoon. He had been very, very hyped up. He was like that normally when he had something on his mind. When I phoned him, he was a little bit calmer, but said, "I cannot talk to you now, I've got people with me, I'll talk to you tomorrow." This was not a response I'd expected from him if he was just with Tony and Craig. That was the last time I had contact with Pat. The following statement from the 16th of the 12th, 95, is some Elizabeth Gorangoshin Lepage. I live with my husband, son and daughter at Grays, Essex. We live in a row of 4 houses at the entrance to Calshot Avenue. Our neighbours at number 8 were Donna Jaggers, Craig Rolfe and their child. We have lived at the current address for about 18 months. Andy, my husband, is a car fitter. Donna and Craig moved into number 8 Calshot Avenue about 15 months ago. We have always spoken to Donna and Craig, but I would not say we were friends or even close neighbours. At the most, we would say hello or just pass the time of day. I run an Avon catalogue, and on a few occasions Donna has purchased a few items. Neither Donna or Craig have ever told me what they do for a living, and to be honest, I formed the opinion that Craig was a bit dodgy. Police have attended the house on numerous occasions and even taken vehicles away from the address. It was not uncommon for Craig to come home at all hours during the night, and he was always using different vehicles. I can recall a white Metro van, black GTI Peugeot, black Mercedes and a Jaguar, a Frontera, and the latest vehicle Craig had was a blue Range Rover. In particular, Craig had a friend I knew as Tony Tucker. Tony had a black Porsche motor car and used to live in Diamond Close, Chafford 100. Although I know of this person, I've only ever said hello as I passed him. I know very little about Craig or Donna, although I can say I was aware that whilst living next door, they split up. Donna left, but about a month later, she returned home. I do not know why their relationship broke up. I use the kitchen wall calendar for dates and appointments by referring to this. I can recall my movements over the last few weeks. On Monday the 4th of the 12th, around about 5:45, I spoke with Craig about the weather before going shopping. On Tuesday the 5th of the 12th, I left my home about 11:30 in the morning to go to the clinic. On this occasion, I was getting into my car, a red Ford Sierra, when I had to ask Craig to move the Range Rover to allow me out. There were 2 other people with Craig at this time. One was Tony Tucker, the second person was a white male, but I took no notice of this person. From pictures I've seen in the papers, this person could have been Pat Tate, but I cannot be sure. On Tuesday evening, it was around 7 p.m, although again I cannot be accurate with the time. I remember going out to my car to get my purse when I saw a male calling at Craig and Donna's house. There was obviously no one in. This person was a white male, average build, mid-30s. I can remember he had a red top and he was casual in dress but carrying a briefcase. I thought by his dress it was unusual to be carrying a case of this description. I think it was a black briefcase. I took no notice of this person. I did not see any vehicle on the driveway at this time. On Wednesday the 6th of the 12th, 95, I saw Craig around midday. I was leaving home to visit my mother's house. I saw Craig driving off in his Range Rover this time. He was alone. I cannot remember if Craig walked to his car or if he was just driving off. I don't recall anything about Thursday though. I visited my mother's in the afternoon. On Friday the 8th of the 12th, I had callers from the press and television and I discovered that Craig had been murdered. On Sunday the 1st of the 12th, around about 1 o'clock, we had a caller who introduced himself as Bernard Lee. He had a calling card which recorded a company called BP Foods of Grays. This person showed concern for Donna. He asked about her location and welfare before handing us his card and driving off in a green Jaguar XJ6 motorcar. I would describe Mr. Lee as follows: a white male, aged 50 years old, unshaven. He was short in build and he had a lot of teeth missing. He had scruffy grey hair. This person was wearing a brown leather jacket, dark trousers and black slip-on shoes. The calling card was later handed to the couple with a white BMW car who had been in Donna and Craig's house. On Wednesday the 13th of the 12th, 95, I had an appointment to see a friend around 1:30 hours. Just before this, around midday, I had just returned home from shopping and I was unloading my car when a male person approached me on my driveway. He asked me if I was alright. He said he was looking for Donna. This person didn't seem particularly friendly. He was short, sharp and to the point. He said, "Where is she?" I replied with words to the effect of, "I haven't got a clue." He replied with, Well, when you see her, tell her Dave is looking for her. I carried on unloading my shopping. I didn't take any more notice. I had in mind a white car. I cannot say if the car was parked in the driveway or on the path outside, or even if this person was connected to the white car. I would describe Dave as follows. A white male, mid-30s, medium build. He had a rounded face with dark hair. The hairstyle was short, shoulder length at the back, with a straight style around the sides and onto the forehead. He was clean shaven and did not wear glasses. This person had a local accent, but I saw no obvious or distinguishing features. To be honest, I didn't pay that much attention to him. I can remember Dave wearing jeans, but I can't remember any other clothing. On Thursday the 14th of the 12th, I became aware of someone in Craig and Donna's house. I knocked, but no one answered. I left a note, and about half an hour later, Donna called round to our home where we'd had a conversation about her and her daughter's welfare. After a few minutes, Donna left. Since Thursday, there have been no other callers to number 8 Cowshot Avenue, but no persons have called to our home address.